Welcome, David. So let me get started. I want to finish on time, and there will be times to talk for the others. So thank you for joining. Today, I thought we could spend more the time on putting a bit into practice some ideas and the working groups, and then so more like a workshop. I really don't know how this is going to work, so we're, I guess, all experimenting here. Any advice as we move? Great. I'll try my best to just coordinate a bit the whole thing. And then the idea would be to next Wednesday, if we talk again, I've asked Rita McGrath to come and talk to us on her view on strategic thinking and how the business and strategy might evolve after the crisis. She has very, very interesting views. So what I did is thank you for those who could fill in the survey. It's just amazing the amount of knowledge that we have in this group. I think it's, let me share with you the slides. I will send them afterwards. But it's, if we cannot do anything, maybe even if it's the smallest thing and help a few people, yeah, that would be bad because I think we have so much experience. So this is the slides that you've seen from before. This you've seen. Thank you. I think we're 50 people in the group, in the LinkedIn, and so for the time being, I think it's a good way to just post things and share. We'll move later on maybe to Teams or something else, but or Zoom, no, Zoom, no, Slack. So still to be decided. But here is where I wanted to get us. What are the core competencies in this group? So it's a lot around project management implementation, almost 20 people. We're talking about 43 surveys on innovation, entrepreneurship, process improvement, coaching, communication. A good group of people have strong communication skills and experience, social media, resilience, mindfulness, education, and so on, social aspects. So it's just impressive the amount of knowledge that we have here. So the challenge is, how can we focus on the few things that we can impact? Arantxa mentioned that, and it was talked by Marshall, is don't aim for the sky, try to just aim for something concrete and specific, and step by step we can move forward. There are many other competencies. I put this just a summary. So you can see people with arts, strategic planning, leadership, multi-language. We have quite a lot of language. I like here somebody saying, I speak Hungarian. What is your superpower? So we have Spanish, French, Portuguese, Afrikaans. There, we could translate some of this material and reach out, I think, or except China, the rest of the world. In terms of the group, so this is what we prioritize based on all the ideas, network of networks. You can see here just a summary of who wants to join, the number of people who want to join. So there is enough resources. And again, sometimes you ask me how much time it will take. I don't know. I think this is, it should not take all your time. If you have the time, fine. I think it's a matter of do as much as you can, and there are obviously other priorities. So the point is not to kill ourselves, it's try to work efficiently. And if you have 3 hours per week, that's enough. If you have more, that's great. So there is no rules. I think this is what you see here, and there's enough resources to cover all these ideas that we mentioned. So what I thought and mentioned last time is let's split out in working groups. And for that, I asked in the survey who wants to take the lead. Doesn't need to see the most expert, maybe it's a topic that you like. And we had already, this is the table that I just created an hour ago. and you can see the different working groups on the top, the people who have replied, and the ones that volunteer to take the lead. So for network of networks will be Anka. I know she won't be able to join, unfortunately. The know-how, Emma, and so on. You see, sometimes there's 2 or 3 people, which I think is great. You can co-lead. It's possible. There's no big issue here. We're all working on the same direction. So if there's co-leaders, perfect. And there were a couple who didn't have a leader. So I propose that we just post them, and later on we'll see. It's better to do a few good than many bad. You know that better than me. So if you bear with me, there's other ideas as well that were mentioned, and I think we need to keep them in the pipeline. But I would prefer to focus on the ones that we can contribute and start working. And just as a mindset or approach here, we're still a bit in the exploration phase, meaning, okay, we can start to think about networks of networks. In 2 weeks, we see that we are not progressing, or we're not getting any traction, or then we'll just stop them. So I think we're still in a phase of trial and error. And maybe if from this 8 or 9 or 10, we get 3 or 4 that really have impact, create momentum, we can influence, I think we can be very happy, and we'll shift resources as we progress. The idea I had for today is the people who have volunteered. I would love if you can comment a few minutes on what is it that you see on this idea. How do you see this project? High level, what's the goal? And I know you didn't have time to prepare, so just give us a few minutes of what you think that could evolve, and we can have a small discussion with the group. And then the next step will be to gather the people who volunteer to help, to just finalize that vision or that goal, and a bit of more detailed planning. So if that's okay with you, I propose that we start with the first one. Anka didn't manage to join. She woke up, but she had to go back to bed. She was not feeling very good. So I propose that we move to the next one. Emma, Ruth, you volunteered to lead this one, the know-how. I know you volunteered for a few. I just chose this one because it was still available. Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts on what could be the things that we do around know-how and education? Can you just briefly tell us?
Is it possible to share my screen?
Of course. Wow, you have something already. Nice.
It's not very big. 1 second.
Try to share.
So for those of you that don't
comment, huh? After Emma talks.
So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Emma Ruth Arnath Pemberton. Emma is fine. I have many names. I'm in the UK, and I'm the Director of Consulting Services at a project management firm called Wellington. We are pretty unique in the industry because we are Microsoft Gold partners, but we're also accredited with the Association for Project Management in the UK, and also work closely with PMI and the International Project Management Association. So that was one of the reasons why I kind of felt the technology know-how was a particular area. I'm a project manager, PMO specialist by trade, so I put my name down for that one, and a few of the other things that I end up doing for my clients. So I think there's a number of different things that the whole aim of this group is to see what people we can help and how. And I think there's lots of different ways that we can do that when it comes to technology. So I've kind of come up with 5, and then I thought people could kind of give their ideas on each of them. And then this is one of the ways that we can get people to join each one of these kind of sub work streams rather than try and do everything. So the first one is all about basic support. So there are lots of people out there who are starting to use technology because they're being forced to, and they don't really understand. So some real practical work around how people can access different technology that they're suddenly seeing all over, LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. and some real practical advice on how to work virtually during this time. So very simple things like if you're using a particular software, these are the things you can do to, you know, blur your background, make sure you don't have any confidential information. So really practical stuff for people at the very basic level. Then businesses, I'm seeing some of my clients are really struggling. They started down the digital transformation path, they never finished, they've been forced into it now. Some of them are really struggling to work remotely. So I think we need to do some practical stuff around supporting organizations who haven't been able to prepare, and that's in terms of finding the right technology, how to get that technology out to their people, and again, just practical advice like gap analysis, like Teams versus Zoom versus something else, so that they can see what each of those technologies brings and how they can implement it remotely. The third one, which is one of the key elements of the kind of one sentence of this stream, was around young people. And I find this really interesting because young people are much more tech savvy than most of us on this call. Anyway, they already know how to use technology better than we do. But it's interesting how young people are using technology at the moment. So, you know, giving people some, again, practical stuff they can join, whether it's a webinar type thing that they can learn how to do something different. And it's interesting that PMI are already starting to do this from a project management perspective with activities that 8 to 12-year-olds can join just to learn the principles of it. And we can do the same from a technology perspective, maybe. People who are unfamiliar, so I've kind of classed the elderly element into this, but there are people who just aren't familiar. I know people who work in the NHS in the UK who aren't that tech savvy because that's not their job. You know, some of us, we work in this stuff all the time. So not just elderly people, but people who aren't exposed in the same way that they are now, is for them to begin to start using technology so that we remove that feeling of, at the moment, I'm completely disconnected from everything, which is quite prevalent, I think, with some people. And then lastly, thinking about the future. So in the future, we can all safely assume that we won't be spending so much time in offices or on client sites because the way that we work this has changed the way that we will have to work in the future. So I think we also need to have a focus on how do we help people and organizations to go back to work in this new perspective with this new element of digital that they've had to be forced into, but actually turning that out of crisis and into the norm. So those are kind of my 5 initial ideas. Obviously happy to bat those around, but I just thought it would be easier to kind of break down into these 5 kind of sub elements so that people could then go, actually, I'm quite interested in the young people bit or in the future elements. And hopefully this means we can dovetail these into some of the other work streams like project management, like communities of practice, etc. That's it.
Wow, very nice. Thank you, Emma Ruth. You're well prepared, and I love the breakdown. I think it touches many different areas. So to me, it does make a lot of sense. Well done. Thank you, Emma. Wow, it's so good to see this kind of input. I think it's going to be difficult to have dialogue here. So I would say the next step would be to schedule, like, with all the people who volunteer to support this initiative, to have a more in-depth conversation. I think you've said clearly your scope and your goal, and now people will be a bit more familiar with your expecting, and I'm impressed. I like it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and thanks for choosing me to be involved in this particular work stream. I feel like we can all add something interesting for people that they can take forward.
And we could think about who are the leading edge people working on education. We do have access to people working in Singularity University or Duke, or they could come one day and do another 20 minutes inspiration on how does it fit with what we're doing. So I think for each of the streams, we can bring like the top of the top thinkers to inspire us a bit as we move forward.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing, and doing things in different ways. So we're not just doing everything, you know, with articles or blogs or videos, and really mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people on this sector in the group, so there will be lots of synergies.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Emma. The next one was Creative Collision. And Diana Stransbury sorry, Diana, that's how you spell your name, Stransberry, she volunteered to take the lead. I think this is a bit unusual idea, but I like it because it's different. So Diana, I don't know if you have any thoughts that you want to share already with the group on what would be that?
Okay, well, good morning. It's morning for me. Good morning, everybody. Emma, that was very impressive, and I look forward to working with you on that. Those are great ideas. My name's Diana Stansberry, actually. It's often mispronounced as strawberry because it looks like strawberry, but it's Diana Stansberry, and I live in Bodega Bay, California, about 60 miles north of San Francisco on the West Coast. I have over 10 years of experience managing small and large scale programs and projects across several industries. I have led creative and strategic initiatives, and I have led geographically dispersed high performance teams. And I'm looking forward to collaborating with all of you and learning from all of you. Looking forward to leveraging our core strengths to provide service, product, content, or knowledge. And at a time when our families, our communities, our country, and our world needs us to be strong, resilient, focused, and loving towards all mankind and our planet. So whenever I think about the fact that I might be afraid, sometimes I think like that, I remind myself that I have a fighter spirit and that there's so much to be done. And I ask myself what I can do. And that is how I came to be amongst all of you. How can we make a difference? How can we help save lives and make this world a better place than it was before? I'm not afraid of challenge, and I'm not limited by what I don't know, especially when I'm in the company of people like yourselves that are like-minded and like-hearted. So I'm very happy to be part of this global community and look forward to the differences we will make. For the Creative Collision team, I have set up a portal on Slack, and I will provide the link in just a few minutes. You probably have already heard from me if you're on the team by invitation, and if you haven't signed on already, I look forward to when you do. We can start there for purposes of brainstorming initially, and if we decide to go to a different collaborative forum, maybe even back to Zoom, that'll be up to us as a collective. I expect that we, as this team, will be the catalyst to stimulate innovation in an open-minded, sharing, and collaborative spirit, where there is no fear of any bad ideas, because we can make something new out of something old, and we can even bring the most unlikely components together to create new remedies in an environment so disruptive that begs for new ways to do things. I see that on the other side of this crisis is a whole new world. Things will never be the way they were before. But I see that as an opportunity to do things differently. And I'm really looking forward to making that happen and making all of the sacrifices that we're all making it turn into something good in spite of all of the pain. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I'm looking forward to learning from you, working with you, collaborating with you. And I just thank you all for allowing me to be part of this group. Furthermore, about the group, the brainstorming, I just am hoping that when we come together, is that we're doing, but I see maybe two avenues. One is that this group supports the other groups in a way of innovation as the need comes forward. But after we meet, we might find that we can do things autonomously and then maybe later join. But I think it would probably work better as a synchronization with other groups to bring innovation to whatever our collective ideas are. And that's what I have for today. And thank you for giving me this time.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for your support. And let me move now to Oleg. There was an initiative on coaching. Oleg has volunteered to take the coordination. I know Bill Sepp is also an outstanding coach. So we are in the hands of great coaches. So what can we do there?
I'm trying to do. We know everything that, we all know that things would be different, but how different we don't know yet. Slightly different, okay. But what we could envision, markets and industries will be different. So it wouldn't, we're facing the need for leaders to be really compelling with business and people expertise. We need to redefine understanding of what collaboration is, because this corona crisis showed that we are not good at collaborating on a general level. Emphasizing the importance of creativity, and so we need to help people with them to reveal their creativity. What I could see, vision is critical as a foundation for defining and building the positive future. And so vision is not a gift. It is an algorithm which can be taught. We could help people with this. Cross-cultural collaboration is critical. So we're not talking about globalization, which is a trend, but real people collaboration, which is of a huge need. Another thing is, the truth is that not all leaders are fighters. So they often need help to coach them on this. And many who are real fighters need coaching and mentoring to advance their competences to create more value for people. This crisis showed that a strong corporate culture is the property of a very few or a limited number, so we need to help them. Yes, recovery will be tough. Millions of people will need help to overcome pain, fear, and losses. A very serious issue is governments. Governments are exercising, most governments are exercising in their incompetence and must take the help of high caliber coaches and mentors to become examples for people. In often cases, what we could see, they're casting doubts their professionalism, which causes more problems in overcoming this crisis. If they would not be victims of their games, probably their lack of leadership competences causes more problems than coronavirus itself. So we could give them a hand or find solutions together. And of course, the issue of self-awareness, as many would lose their confidence. So this is just a few core aspects which could be structured and applied. For whom those things are important? For those who will survive, and for those who will face huge losses or lost almost everything, but trying to rise up again, whether it is small business, medium, large, non-profit, or state or governmental. What I learned that too many people still believe that they can't survive to be on their own or being on their own and using pre-corona thinking and already dated competencies, but it wouldn't work. So first of all, the focus should be on those who are prepared and ready for change. This will allow creating a momentum, and we should start with those who have capacity for change. What kind of solutions we could find? At least we should start coordinating coaches, mentors, get them together, share expertise and overall support. is not those wish to be. So must be engaged, and we should this ball rolling, and we could do it. When I could see some kind of a new directions of coaching and mentoring, it's visionary leadership, recovery leadership, government leadership, and self-awareness, and at a much ways. So inviting to join and contribute.
Thank you, Oleg. Very interesting too.
Thank.
Let me move. I want to try to cover all. I think this one, it's a very interesting one, a new business models or, yeah, Juanma and Terry have volunteered, but I've seen already some exchanges as well in the chat. Who wants to start, Juanma? And then Terry, you can just share a bit your views on what you have in mind.
Well, in fact, we have been talking this morning in Spain. It's early morning in the USA, in the East Coast, about this, and we define an approach which I think covers the broadness of this group, which is asking those to share with us their vision and their questions about what to be covered, because we have a huge field. I've already seen some comments in the chat by I think it's Goche. I don't know if I've pronounced it properly, but she says about why don't including public tenders and then mixing with SMEs, and then Marcello also intervening. We need to have a broader view that we, Terry and myself, have. So the idea is to ask to all those that are in, and then in a couple of days, 3 days, prepare the content and the purpose of the group, and then I leave the stage to Terry to explain our conversation this morning and all the details we have been talking about.
Thank you, Juanma. Hi, Terry. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, afternoon, and evening. It's becoming here. This is delightful, isn't it? I'd like to put something in the chat. Juan and I, during our meeting today, Juan was gracious enough to email address for new strategies and business models, so that we don't try to fill up the ideas in the chat today during the meeting. So if you have some input based on what you're thinking the overall vision could be, and what some strategies that you have been discussing with other people possibly. And so Juan and I had a delightful first visit today, and what we're looking at doing here initially anyway, before we receive feedback, is coming out of what is the new model. The last century model of doing business is really no good anymore. It's not valid. The time to pass by the discussions of what business should look like and get into the action making of what the businesses could look like, and start having and putting together vision-based strategies versus goals and timetables and money-based. In my company, for instance, and I'll put it in the chat today, a PDF download vision strategy roadmap is a printable document that shows some basic ideas of creating a vision and how to get there. And it works personally and business-wise, so I will put that in the chat for everyone today. Initially, these first meetings is to get us all kind of thinking, putting us into the pot and start stirring. and see what kind of things come from the stirring of the pot. And with the idea that the pot is that is the I'm going to cut it off early. Love to see some input via the email address that we've started, and see where this goes. We can't wait till Wednesday, see what we come up with between now and then.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Terry.
Antonio.
Thank you, Juanma. It's a very exciting topic. I think you see more and more people talking about sustainability and environmental, and it's a unique opportunity to turn things around in that respect. So I'm looking forward to the discussions. We do have access to Alex or Yves Pignon, the guys of the business model, so we could try to get them also one day to give us a small talk, either Alex or if when we really specific on this topic, one call, we could do that. And I think Rita will be also good on telling us a bit the future of business. Let me move quickly to the next one. The tender follow-up. That one we didn't have any leader, but that's okay. I think there was maybe some connection to the previous one, but it's no problem if it doesn't pick up. One which has a lot of interest is the cultural, the communication. And for that, we have Patricia and Paula, they are passionate and so experienced about this topic. Who wants to start? Patricia, you want to start, and then we'll give it to Paula.
Hi, sorry about that. I was muted. So some of the things that we've been seeing with populations around Africa, Rwanda and South Africa and Zimbabwe and India is that they have no access to basic food and water facilities. So that's the real biggest problem. They may not be connected to any resource groups that are there. They lack connectivity, so they don't have phones or data or internet. Some of them are not following the rules because there is government suspicion, and there's religious practices that mean potentially they think they're going to be cured by, or they think the virus is not going to affect them. And then there's also no work available for some people. Some people were selling newspapers or making arts and crafts, and these are not, they cannot do that anymore. So I think what we have to do is leverage what we have available. And this is the working groups here. Any platforms that are already established, we can reach out to them. Telecommunications and infrastructure, we might, I don't know, connect with them. Translating through basic training, sign language, visual language, any way they can pick up the information in the way that they want to. We can also advertise and develop training around entrepreneurship and how to develop new skills. And I think to be successful, we have to bear in mind what it is that we want to achieve. And this is, for me, this is building connection and culture, communication and resource infrastructure, and support at a very basic human level as the purpose, and safety. So Paula has, I'm sure she can add some things.
So we had a conversation with, good morning everyone, from just outside of Toronto, Ontario in Canada. It's, I don't know what time it is, 11:43 a.m. here. So I'll be very brief, but segueing on to what Patricia was saying, we had a conversation this morning about this prior to our plenary right now. And we tossed around some ideas with regards to what we wanted to achieve, but we also realized that everyone who signed up for the communications in different cultures working group also is highly intelligent and knowledgeable and expert in their fields and can contribute so much. So I posited that well, we might be able to, Patricia and I might be able to hold the space it's really important that we, use methods of circle leadership. So we invite everyone to co-facilitate the group with us, and really, contribute with their best ideas and their best suggestions. I've put some, and this is just some of what's out there available in posts in our, overall umbrella group. So if you go to the LinkedIn umbrella group, you'll that would have signed up for by now. You'll see the posts that I put in there for our communications team. There's a specific one that says, and then I've also posted other ones, like, for example, there's a link in there for all of the working teams. So just peruse all those links, because there's so much in the way of resources of existing platforms and organizations that have a COVID-19 response already, and they need assistance. As far as going back to communications are concerned, we both agreed, Patricia and I both agreed that just as the work title states, it's all about making sure that the communications are clear and transparent and accurate. That's one stream. So to combat misinformation and misbelief. And also to be sensitive on the other side of the stream to the varying ways in which cultures are different cultures and I'm not just trying to say national, at all levels of culture in which we move, so that as people approach this information, as people approach ways in which to stay connected, that we attempt to all be mindful of minimizing those perhaps misapprehensions or initial judgments we might have, to be able to keep the ways of communication open, and also keeping in mind that we all have different perspectives that are underpinned by our cultural belief systems, and also from our own positions of privilege and power that allow us to make assumptions based on what other options that we could plug into. But I would love to hear other suggestions, either in the meeting that we're going to convene virtually with the rest of the group sometime this week. And Patricia will be sending out an email to that effect to our group about that. But I have proposed a couple of options that are specific to communications and involving culture on the macro and the micro level. So macro, meaning Translators Without Borders. So there are initiatives specific to COVID that I think we could plug into, and there are contacts in the links page that I've put in the posts, so that we can see how our group can impact positively the work that they're doing, or scale those initiatives and encourage people to volunteer, to their expertise, provide knowledge transfer to the various sectors that these organizations have already set up platforms to deal with, but they need help. The other one is Tarjimly, which is a cell phone-based technology, or mobile technology, where if someone who is in a vulnerable position somewhere in the world needs assistance to a translator, someone in a refugee camp, someone in difficulty in getting information but doesn't have the language resources to get a translator or know where to find an interpreter, then Tarjimly has set that up so that people can actually, with their cell phones, request assistance. And in many remote corners of the world, people use cell phones for that purpose, to connect with people. So because they have an avid clientele of people who are in vulnerable situations, and the app is readily available for free on Google Play or the Apple Store, then people have actually, like, thousands of people have already been helped through Tarjimly. So the links are in there. And Tarjimly Cares if we as a group, as a working group, were to sign up, then we can promote that and scale that within through our networks as well to other people to sign up and volunteer their time. Even if it means, I don't know, an hour a week, an hour a month, 5 minutes in the course of whenever, to help someone in need somewhere halfway across the world. So those are two possibilities. So Tarjimli, which is on the micro level where you're actually helping people one-on-one, but the platform allows us to scale across all of our networks, or Translators Without Borders, which allows us to plug in on the macro level in terms of dissemination of information that's correct and accurate and timely to combat the misinformation or infodemia, as the director of the World Health Organization put it. So not just epidemia, it's not just an epidemic. So
thank you.
Okay.
And I think there might be connections to other work areas as well. So we'll see how it evolves, but there's a lot of information that you both already have provided. So thank you, and let's see how that evolves through the initial phases. The next one is one that many of us are very close, which is around project management. We have Luan as well from the board of PMI. Hi, Luan. And Fernando said that he wanted to coordinate. We might have some more people who want to co-coordinate, but briefly in 2 minutes, Fernando, what can we do more from a project perspective, project management?
Well, I think that the future, the project how we will manage the project in the future will be changed 100%. In majority of them, since the last years, one of our focus is the profit, and the profit for the future project will be gone. It's not the focus of the next project. The focus is to recover the country, to recover the society, to recover the economy, but forget about the profit. So profitable projects are gone in this way. So I think that with the knowledge that we have, with the experience as the PMI, and others also certifications on business model, is to contribute to in these projects, because I am sure that there are 100, no, thousands of a project that they cannot be able to do it because they don't have people to do it. Management. We can see in every time that how things that they come, for example, come from all this items that we supply from China, from other countries, the coordination of that project. Some of them are good, some are not, but of course, in none of them, the profit is not the focus. So we need to change the idea how to make the projects in the next future in order to bring up our society, our community, our economy. So my idea is just to capture idea from one from another, and to collocate people from here to there and to share our experience in order to recover the society.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think you'll have a lot of input on that. And yeah, I guess it's a hot topic in the project management community. Thank you, Fernando. And again, this is just initial ideas. I see lots of good comments on the chat, and indeed what we're going to do is in each of these groups trying to narrow it down and select one or two objectives, because we cannot tackle everything. So objectives that we can, yeah, have an impact or yeah, make on knowledge and network, having some results, positive results. There's a last one, which was another topic. The last one was presented by Elena, and it's just another thought. There was a volunteer, Javina from Brightline, but I don't see her in the call. So I don't know, Elena, if you can tell us in 2 minutes what you had in mind. I think I see you in the...
Yes, sure. Just a couple of words in introduction. I'm based in Chicago, Illinois. I am originally from Russia. I have lived in the States for many years. I'm in management consulting, currently work in an internal consulting and project management position for an industrial waste management company. I'm not a specialist, of course, on anything related to the epidemic diseases. But what I can observe just as a private person, that of course everybody knows that the public health systems around the world are not ready. They're not ready to prevent such a disease, and they're not ready to manage it. And the current crisis, as bad as it is, it's not the worst case scenario at all. There is a lot of diseases that are actually worse in terms of mortality rates, the speed of spreading the disease, etc. And so what can we do to help maybe governments or whoever to prevent a future catastrophe? I think we can eventually develop a playbook or a collection of best practices. I will not elaborate on this concept now, since I don't have much time, but I can say what I think we can do now in this group. We can start collecting lessons learned in terms of good practices and bad practices that we observe. And just as I'd like to give a following example. Like, everybody knows about the shortage of ventilators around the globe. At the same time, in this country, MIT, about 10 years ago, developed a high-level design of a very cheap ventilator. And that project was just closed because nobody thought it would be of any use. Now, MIT professors and students are coming back to this project and developing quickly the actual design and prototype. But my point is, there was like a good step in a needed direction that was dropped, which is a bad practice. So what I suggest for this group, let's collect these examples in the area of public health or whatever can help public health systems. Let's start with collecting lessons learned, and then we'll go from there. And I will talk more about the conceptual level of this project later on when I have more time.
Thank you, Elena. And you will work with Janinka on that. And so I want to finish on time. It's hard to cover so much content in 1 hour. That's why I think it's important that the working groups get together and brainstorm a bit more and narrow it down the 1 or 2 things that we can do in these areas. I think Ron was talking about thinking one stakeholder group that we can influence more or support more. So that's also very good, valid point. Sadi was talking about being specific as much as possible when you define what are the targets of the group and working group. So I think I leave it to the coordinators to fine tune these things. We are all professionals, so we don't need too much. We can free work in agile teams basically, and I think what's important, because we're all volunteers, is that if you can help, just tell it to the coordinator. If you cannot help, tell it to the coordinator, so that we know how much resources we have, and we can maybe prioritize again later on, depending on how we are progressing, so that we can have more capacity in 1 or 2 topics. But I think the next week will be exploration still in these 7 or 8 areas, and then we can zoom in into a few more. So thank you very much. I think there's already the LinkedIn channel to do a bit more chatting as we progress. And there was, Jose, I think we need to have more dialogue as we start working on these groups. And we'll put another call on Wednesday and another on Sunday. That's, I think, a good read. And anything else, just reach out. You have the emails of the people. You can connect specifically on a few areas if you want. This is all for you as well for whatever you need. So I want to finish on time. If you have any final comments, just let me know. You're good? We're good?
Paula,
Okay.
can you share the apps that you mentioned, the Tarjuling apps somewhere that we can get those?
Yes, Paula has, I think, put already something in the LinkedIn group. And otherwise, just reach there through this first social channel. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.